Start us off, Carter.
But this isn't the Zombies Ramble About Nonsense show. This is Don't Sleep on Football. Carter here.
All right, hold on. I feel like you've met us. Are we sure this isn't just a zombies ramble on nonsense show?
I mean, it's a metaphor for that, but it's not literally that. Both of us, well, I haven't checked in on you since you got to Connecticut. I know that place is overrun with horrors beyond our comprehension, but I like to think both of us are still like beating heart sentient creatures. So it's more of like a metaphoric zombies rambling about nonsense show, not a literal one. There are literal ones. Mostly they talk about basketball and the gambling scandals.
Oh man, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, that's fucking like.
That's
I'm gonna be
insane.
honest. Like, yeah. But here's the thing: all of the crazy mobster stuff about like using poker tables with X-rays under them really does like betray the fact that like there's actual like super serious allegations about like guys basically using their ins with players to get ahead of betting lines, and it's just like. When did we? How did we think this was going to happen? Like
That
again,
is.
and especially it's even more controversial because like the league investigated multiple players who were implicated in this and were like, they didn't do anything wrong.
I think it's also kind of crazy that it's not even like it's like it's not like these rich, powerful people. It's just basketball. It's like basketball players, which is like, huh? They're the ones working with the mafia. That's
Right.
that wasn't on my scorecard for the year.
Right. Well, no, because that's the thing. Like the truly powerful and elite have gone well beyond gambling to feel anything. It really is just like players who are bad with money or need a little boost of cash, and like the sort of backwash of the Italian mob who are all living out in Staten Island. Um, like this is chump change to like the Silicon Valley guys or like the real international crime guys.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it is. Again, it's like the fucking Black Sox drama was just like a handful of like shithead 2-bit mobsters. It was always going to be a bunch of shithead 2-bit mobsters, not like anyone serious.
What's
Like,
the
and I
what's the equivalent to for basketball? Like the black shoes?
no, because the Black Sox was the World Series. That was like,
Yeah.
this is huge, but like,
It's
it's contained enough to just random inane like games in the NBA that they might be able to put a lid on it. It's not until like actual serious important games get implicated in this where it's like all hell's gonna break loose.
yeah. If it was
Like
like the
again,
finals, they're gonna have a
yes,
name.
right. Like we're just counting down to the days that happens because again, the Black Sox were favorited, like basically arguably the most favorited team in the World Series in the history of World Series. It several Hall of Famers who will never be led into the Hall of Fame now. Well, I feel like they have to because they let fucking Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame now. They basically
Yeah.
had to like pause and reflect on like we can't in good faith constantly market gambling and say these individual players are not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame because of gambling. The
Especially with
optics of that aren't
the
great.
like just the constant like go to DraftKings. Here's the bet lines. Things like
Yes.
that they
It's
promote now.
it really is. I mean, I've been yelling about this shit for like 2 years now. It's so creepy and insidious, and of course it was going to lead to this.
Yeah.
Like, this is here's my argument that's always been when the Supreme Court basically like kiboshed most of like the laws and rules around gambling in the United States that kept it contained to a handful of places and a handful of circumstances. And basically the legal argument they used, because the Supreme Court at least nominally has to use legal precedent to make decisions. They basically use the same legal precedent they did when they gutted the Voting Rights Amendment, where they were like, well, that was like an antiquated law from the past. We don't need that anymore. Everything's fine now. Immediately, everything goes off the rails.
Wait, wasn't there like a Simpsons episode or something where they got on a boat to go into international waters to
Yes.
sports gamble? Was that Simpsons?
Yes.
I distinctly
Yes. And then the monkeys have a knife fight.
yeah. Yeah. That is a good scene. But it's like that's like a crazy like we live in the very small timeline where that was super relevant where people are having to do that and now where Did you see the clip of ESPN taking off their bottom ticker?
Yes, it's
With
so bleak,
that because it
and
had
no
like
one
an
will reflect.
ESPN
No one will
Instant.
pause and reflect about that,
It
or at least
was
no one powerful will reflect on that.
yeah, it was atrocious. It was just a hard click off. Like I can actually do that on the video, where I could just be like, yeah, it's like if we were recording this without me or Carter because of a gambling scandal, and I just went, oh, and then just made our names disappear off the screen.
Right.
Like,
I Yeah. Honestly, the only thing that escalates this is the fact that LeBron's name, he was not referenced in relation to gambling. He was referenced in terms
relation
of
to the
someone
mob.
getting No. I mean, I have to assume he knows some mobsters. I know some mobsters, or at least I played on lacrosse teams with kids of mobsters.
We will talk about that later.
I will explain that off mic for you because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But yes, basically, one of the guys who was like sending in tips to his mobster friends, like got inside information that LeBron wasn't going to play in a handful of games. And basically, it's going to come down to, did LeBron tell this guy about that? Did LeBron know this guy was mobbed up? So far, there's no evidence to suggest that, and I think we'll be okay on that. Because if that happens, then the whole thing craters. I mean, Jesus, how much of a mythology there is around the fact that, like the whispers there have always been about the fact that Michael Jordan didn't go to baseball because, like, he wanted to, but because he was, like, going to get implicated in some pretty bad gambling stuff. Basically, the league was like, this is effectively your punishment. We can't have the most important player in our sport, maybe ever, implicated in gambling.
So play minor league baseball.
So play minor league baseball for 3 years. It's also connected to, well, it also gets ugly because it's also connected to his dad being killed by some, like, crooks, and it's like a whole thing. But, like, there is a great story from Bill Simmons. Well, I think someone was telling Bill Simmons it. It was, like, during the height of Allen Iverson, like when the league was really trying to push back against his image as sort of like the street sport, and you can imagine how coded that was. And apparently someone heard Commissioner David Stern on the phone. It's like, and if Allen doesn't think I'm fucking serious, ask about what I did to Jordan. And what's great is that could have either been a huge scoop that they really did suspend Michael Jordan without suspending him, or David Stern is the exact kind of person who would hear that story and lean into it to make himself more of this, like, intimidating kingmaker who, like, can change the fate of a player's life on a whim. But yeah, it's like we're getting
positives.
Exactly. You win either way. Either you are the most powerful person in the world, or you've terrified everyone into thinking you're the most terrifying person in the world. Either way, you win. There's no lose state there. Basically, you get a 20 in intimidation rolls no matter what. But anyway, yeah, it's the LeBron part is the part that gets serious, and it's the part that, like, the NBA did its own internal investigation, and the FBI's investigation basically undid everything the NBA was saying. Like, you know, the MLB was already sweating enough that Shohei was kind of sort of implicated in gambling, or rather that, like, which we don't have time to get into that whole thing. But basically, like, I buy the sort of story Shohei came out with that his interpreter was making bets on his behalf, or, like, without his consent, effectively. Because, like, I think people misunderstand, like, it's not his, like, translator wasn't a translator in the sense of he literally just handles interviews. He really was, like, his American bookkeeper, like, guy who handles all of his American business. But anyway, yeah, this is really bad, and, like, it has the potential to get worse. There's no way it gets better. And I mean, we will see. And this is funny because it actually stepped over my, like, the actual bit where I was trying to imagine what else zombies actually do podcasts on. And mostly I was just thinking of the movie Paranorman, mostly because I'm watching that for Halloween. Have you seen Paranorman? I think you would actually really like it.
I have.
Yes, it does feel like a very Kevin movie. Like, I get why Leica, the stop motion animation studio behind Coraline, Paranorman, Kubo, and a couple others, like, I get why none of their other films have hit as big, because Coraline is such an out of the park grand slam to start. But, like, goddamn if Paranorman isn't kind of like, I feel like it's better. I feel like it's richer. I feel like it's more interesting, even if it's not necessarily as instantly, like, iconic.
Yeah.
But anyway, what the fuck were we talking about?
Football.
Oh, right, football. Shall we get to the highlights?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's kick it off with. All right, fine. Fuck it. I guess the Colts are for real. The Colts kind of had what I would argue is their first Well, I guess outside the Rams game, their first super major serious test. Both in the sense of you're going against another team who's trying to take that next step, but also a team who is theoretically one of your immediate rivals to get a good seed in the conference. And they kind of put the hurt on the Chargers. The final score was 38-24. The Chargers did put up a spirited fight at the end, but 90% of this game was not close.
Yeah, it was pretty much Colts heavy. Let's see, 23-3 at the half, and then they only kept to 38, but Chargers took off a little bit, but I think it's one of those too little too late moments.
Yeah, I don't even think. Well, it's funny because I don't even think the Chargers offense played that bad. They had two kind of back-breaking interceptions. One, I genuinely don't know what Herbert was thinking. The other was just kind of more of you tried to make a play and the defender made a better play. But what struck me from this game truly was just how methodical, multiversatile, and basically everything we've been kind of saying about everything we've been saying in pencil, feeling like it got written in pen about the Colts in terms of the offense. Their first drive, 5 plays, 75 yards, 2.5 minutes. Second drive, they get touchdown, 17 plays, 70 yards, 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Third drive, 8 plays, 80 yards, 4 minutes. What's striking is they can kind of kill you, and it's something we've talked about in terms of how much sort of well-rounded talent they have. They have an entire team of Marios in the metaphor of Mario sports games. In terms of they can push it downfield. They can be that high-flying, high-fluting offense. They can grind you to death, dink and dunk you into oblivion. And they can do kind of everything in between. Honestly, I think one of the biggest weaknesses from this game is I would like to see every now and then, I would have liked to see them later in the game when the Chargers were making a bit of a comeback to have a better time of possession. I really think they lost the time of possession by almost 10 whole minutes. And I do think really leaning into the run game and just grinding it out at the end would have been sort of the icing on the cake. But yeah, I think at some point we just have to concede they're a serious team, right? We can't just pretend this is a fluke.
Yeah, we're at that point now where it's just it doesn't work. We can't be oh yeah, they got lucky.
Insustainable.
They're doing good. Let's see. Give me 1 second. 6-1 is we're at this point now where that's not a laughable record. And
right, because teams can be 3-0, and it's all right, you played 3 cupcakes, but it's once you get to 7 games, it's you played enough games that are serious that you have to take it seriously.
They dominated the Colts or not the Colts, they are the Colts, the Dolphins week 1. And it's just all right.
Well, you have to beat yourself before you beat anyone else.
Everyone's whoa, how did that happen? But then we've come to learn the Dolphins are absolutely trash.
We'll get there.
They beat the Broncos by 1, so it's all right, that could be lucky. They clearly beat the Titans, which is another whatever. And then it's all right, they lost to the Rams, but only by 1. Huh. And it's all right, we're going to put the hurt on the Raiders. All right, we're going to solidly beat the Cardinals. All right, we're going to put the hurt on the Chargers to a point now where it's just all right, you guys aren't messing around at all. Guess the lowest number of points they've scored in a game this season so far.
I'm pretty sure it's the Rams game where they had a touchdown taken off the board because a guy dropped the ball.
Yeah. And that's
so in fact they had 2 touchdowns taken away. Yeah, they had 14 points lost by one guy taking a penalty and one guy fumbling it through the end zone. And I think what you're going through the scores, I do think is helpful here because it does kind of get at a lot of the stuff we've been saying in terms of one, we really want to see for serious contenders, for serious teams, we really want to see them take bad teams to the woodshed. It's not enough just to win. You kind of have to have at least 1 or 2 really good we throttled them games. Yeah. We got that 3 times with them with Miami, Tennessee, and LA, or Vegas. You want to see them consistently win against teams who are equal or better than them. They beat Denver in a super weird game. They beat the Chargers pretty emphatically. And even the Rams game, again, they probably should have won, and it just felt like karma wasn't on their side that day.
Yeah.
They've done kind of everything
A
you need to
silly
see from like a
mistake
serious team.
is keeping them from having a perfect season so far.
Exactly. This doesn't feel like, because for the longest time, for most of the season so far, I've compared them to that one Vikings team who went like 14-3. That was like the year
Last
they
year?
won. No, not that one. I just realized they did it twice. No, the one before that with Kirk Cousins.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I believe they ended up being the first seed. They lose to the Giants. No, they're the second seed, and they lose to the Giants in the playoffs, if you remember.
Yes.
Yes, and that year, everyone was like, this smells like shenanigans. Because they were winning so many games by one score. They were getting so many absolutely calamitous, fluky breaks going in their favor. That was the season Josh Allen fumbled it on a quarterback sneak and ended up taking a giving up a fumble touchdown. That was the year the Colts had like a 33-0 lead going into halftime, and they somehow blew that game. Yes, again, it was literally like the amount of horseshoes, like your body simply cannot take that much horseshoe metal directly up the ass, frankly, for a number of reasons. And I'm like, none of this feels like the only game that feels like a fluke is the game they lost, where it's like, yeah, but you won that game. You were better than them that game.
Yeah.
And at some point, like, maybe they will lose in the first round of the playoffs. Like, maybe they'll just get a bad matchup. Like, they'll get the second seed. Like, someone will get ahead of them for the first seed. Like, they'll get the second seed. Maybe they'll just lose in the first round. But, like, I doubt it's going to feel like a fluke if they lose. It'll just be like, it was a good game, but they lost.
Yeah. Man, I won't say anything due to fear of jinxing for like an early prediction.
Yeah, I don't want to.
But
I'm still trying to reverse jinx the Chargers back into being like elite again.
but I think we may or may not have a distinct contender for after week 18 football. Because the rest of they have Steelers, Chiefs, a surprisingly good Jaguars, and Seahawks, but then they have interesting Jaguars twice, a on the sadder part of interesting Texans twice, Falcons, Titans. That is just like, all right, what are we doing here, buddies?
Right. It does feel like yeah, you're right. They do get a bunch of good tests. Like, most of their full-on cupcake games are gone. Like, Jacksonville, I don't think is very good, and I don't really think Pittsburgh's good, but they're at least competitive.
Yeah.
So I do think that'll be an interesting test.
I said it last time. Jaguars are like a solid pacer team for playoff-bound teams.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing how that goes twice is going to be good. And then Pittsburgh's weird.
I maintain they're not good, but
I'm
also a stubborn bitch about that.
I don't want to outright say I feel like they've been lucky, because I don't think it's been pure luck. But this team I feel like has like the best record for, even though they are on my fraud watch.
Right. Well, I actually do have a nice thing to say about Pittsburgh if you want to move on to our next point.
Sure.
The Bengals rise from the dead. Oh, I should have led with that to tie in with the zombie thing. Damn.
Come on, Carter, you're better than this.
I know I am, and yet I never show it. I'm the Justin Fields of the, of the podcast. Gee, no, that's mean. That's too mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's too mean to yourself.
One of the more fun Thursday night football games in recent memory, although I do feel like the Thursday night games have been noticeably better this year. I mean, literally tonight. I think we have an interesting one tonight, actually.
We do. But I think I can agree to that. I think Thursday night football has been very well scheduled so far, with the exception of one game. Which one was it? Well, there's the. Was it Dead Solid? No, there was one of the games that I was just like, all right, this is a little weird to be at this spot. I don't remember which one it was though.
But yes, well, we'll figure that. I'll give you time to figure out that as I do like the intro for this game. So this was the Old Man Bowl. I refuse to use the phrase "unk" because I'm a grown adult. The Cincinnati Bengals won 33-31. Joe Flacco put on a bit of a clinic. Arguably, it's so funny. In terms of like this career renaissance Joe Flacco's had, where he's been comeback player of the year, where he's been like, yes, but he's gone to the playoffs. Yes, no, exactly. Yes, he died like Lamar Jackson threw him into a fiery pit, and he came back as Gandalf the White. And you're right, because they were wearing the all white, those actually pretty slick all white jerseys.
I'm a fan. I do not understand how some of our friends hate this white tiger style uniform that the Bengals rock.
I think it's so cool.
It's
like
a great uniform.
In general, I'm very partial to like whiteout unis, but for this one in particular, I'm like, now this looks like, people have joked that the Bengals uniforms look a little silly compared to other NFL teams, and I'm like, yeah, but these are like the cool, like mature versions.
The Browns,
like this is a football team, right? Just orange.
Also, Tampa Bay creamsicle.
Yes, exactly. Like, there are much cartoonier jerseys than these two Bengals ones. And I do feel like these ones just have, like, a sense of sophistication, much like a white tiger, have, like, a sophistication to them.
You're going to say an inbred vibe, because a lot of them are inbred.
Well, I don't know animals, as we often talk about. In terms of our, like, we do some Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and I do an all, like, critter campaign. It's basically Disney's Robin Hood. And it is very embarrassing to constantly have to ask everyone else at the table, can an animal actually can a lizard actually climb up that wall?
It's comedic because every player,
literally every other one,
has an animal-related college degree.
And my degree is in animation.
Yeah.
So I get the tone. But yes, it makes it more fun, in my opinion. Like, and figuring out, like, what birds can fly and which can't.
Yeah.
But, yes. So, the biggest takeaway from this game is truly, again, it's what we talked about last week, but now it's got a happy ending because they won. Like, the sheer just basic bareline competence of the Bengals offense now. Yes. And again, I'm not talking about, this is not, like, scheming up crazy plays. This is not like the most complicated offense. Joe Flacco often made a joke about how Zach Taylor actually has a bit of an accent, and like he actually struggled to understand some of the stuff he was saying, so he kind of just winged it. It truly was the most mean potatoes Madden-esque. Give the ball to your good players in the most basic, simple way possible. Jamar Chase, I believe, has had a leading 23 targets in this game, which he turned into 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. T. Higgins got 10 targets, so he's not like missing out on his usual production. 96 yards and a touchdown. And even Chase Brown, who looked just truly dead on arrival this season, like truly the biggest victim of, well, not the biggest victim because Joe Burrow's foot like broke, but the biggest victim of the players who are playing in terms of just being inept. With this offensive line, was able to cruise for 11 carries and 108 yards.
Yeah, I feel like Joe Flacco figured out the formula of just, I'm going to throw it to these people that are really good at their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Which is the whole point. Like, it really is like the whole point of this, right? Like, if you are going to spend this much money on your offense while your defense isn't that good and your offensive line is kind of mediocre, it's like...
putting up 27 minimum points.
Right, exactly. And it's not just that you have to be scoring, it's that you have to feed these guys. The point of pay, and I'm thinking about it in the context of James Cook, because I'm just in a very Bills mindset today. It really is, it's the bye week, and I want to talk about them more for reasons I can explain later. It is truly like, you got to give the ball to the guys you pay. And I think the difference between Joe Flacco and Jake Browning is Jake Browning was too skittish in the pocket and was too flustered by the chaos of it all and like the pressure to consistently and reliably get them like catchable balls and like makeable plays. Whereas Joe Flacco's literally like, just run a slant and I will get it to you. Yeah. I will literally throw it in a catchable range.
He looked fantastic.
Right. And to the compliment of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who... I feel like people are slightly overstating how good Aaron Rodgers has looked this past this past season so far. But I will say he does look better than he did on the Jets, and it really is. I'm like, what are the two best eras, like post Super Bowl win? What are the two best eras of Aaron Rodgers football? That period where they got Matt LaFleur as like the serious offensive coordinator and like they rebuilt the offense, and this era where he's working with Arthur Smith, and like who has his own whose way of coaching offensive football is very different from how Aaron Rodgers likes to do things. This is not a repeat of the Jet season where Aaron gets to handpick the guys he wants to bring over, where he gets to run everything out of shotgun. Like he's actually having to play like classic NFL quarterback under center, a lot of play action, like the sort of running the plays, being open to improvisation and also running the plays as directed. You know what it is? I actually thought of this today. I really think, like, both for Aaron Rodgers and both for Arthur Smith, it is because, we ragged on Arthur Smith before when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. We made fun of him where it's like, why are you not giving the ball to Bijan and Drake London, the two players you drafted really high? Why are you not giving the ball to Kyle Pitts, the guy you drafted really high? And it dawned on me that I think Arthur Smith is only a competent offensive coordinator when you don't put pressure on him to use star talent. Like, it is very much the difference, I think, between you and me cooking. Because you take pride in, like, getting kind of exotic ingredients. You take pride in trying a lot of new things and mixing it up. Like, you're someone who will do, like, alligator gumbo. And you will get, like, I believe when it was your birthday and Tom wanted to know what he should make, you just said the most exotic meat you can find in your store.
I didn't specifically say exotic. I told him, like something unique. Go find.
Yeah, that's the word for it.
You usually get, and then make it up from there.
Whereas I would kind of waste those ingredients just because I'm, like, not good at that. Like, I like duck, but I'm not good at making duck. I'm just too conscious about internal temperatures. I overheat the pan. Like, I'm a okay cook, but only with, like, basic stuff. And I really do think that is, like, Arthur Smith here.
You start duck cold. You never put duck in.
Well, I know that. I just leave it on too long because I'm like, well, I don't want to get the salmonella. And but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
I will say, though, the Pittsburgh defense is a bit sobering. Because, again, Joe Flacco is much better than Jake Browning, but he's not that much better. And it is striking that, like, per percentage of salary cap, the Steelers pay more on defense than any other team, and their defense looks like Swiss cheese.
Yeah, it's a weird defense because they look like kind of gross for the layman's terms, but also they have stars.
Right, they have name talent. Yeah. It's just that name talent is on the older side now, and also, like,
looking at you, Darius Slay.
Yes, I do think it is the struggle of, like, the weakness of Mike Tomlin as a coach, kind of being stubborn and set in his ways, where it's like, it's so striking how much motion the Bengals used during this game, and it really did just feel like the Steelers defense was like, what the fuck is happening? And it's like, Tommy, Mikey boy, you gotta change with the times. You gotta adapt your system. Instead, he just trusts the talent will win out. And it's like, well, that's not always how it works, especially when the talent's older.
And he's got a solid variety pack of talent. Like Joey Porter Jr., pretty young guy, solid corner. He's a corner, right? He's not linebacker. I remember he was drafted as a corner. Patrick Queen, TJ Watt, TJ Watt's getting up there in age. Mm-hmm. But it's like I said, Darius Slay, where it's like, these are some solid names. My favorite one, according to the stat sheet I'm looking at, DK Metcalf played a snap on defense or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's like you have a little bit too much talent, and like these aren't the names I said. I feel like aren't like niche. Like, I'm a fan of the team, I'm gonna be dropping this guy's name. It's like, no, these should be like casual.
Right, that we're not Pittsburgh people and we know these guys. Suggests like, yeah, they have notable, talented people on this defense.
Yeah, but what's the guy to do? What's the dinosaur to do?
Change the time. I mean, and that really is like when people have talked about Tomlin being on or not in the hot seat. It really is at some point of like when a coach is set in his ways and has had enough success that he doesn't really have to learn or change at all. Like it really does become like we just need to get a new guy with like a new vision for this.
Yeah, that is like the worst situation is having somebody comfortable.
Right. And like case in point, like and it's especially for like their specific side. Because it's like at least with the offense you can bring in new people, like young talent, old talent. Like honestly, the Buccaneers are a weirdly good example because they've gone through so many offensive coordinators over these last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're constantly getting new influxes of new ideas and like younger people with like different perspectives on the sport, which has allowed their offense to kind of go supernova while the defense has stayed competent and stable enough that like even if their schemes are a little old and Bowles has been there for a while, it doesn't completely derail the entire thing.
Yeah.
Here's a note from you. Hot take. Philadelphia's cornerbacks and Minnesota's wide receivers are an even match of elites. I don't disagree with that.
Watching that game, it was very 50-50 on like who beat who, if the corner got like in the way enough to block a pass and stuff, how quickly like they were tackled after that. I felt like it was so 50-50. There was no clear defining like, oh, it was clearly in favor of these guys. And yeah, no, I think that's just a level of elite versus elite because you have Quinyon Mitchell with his crazy stats against some of the league's top receivers, adding Justin Jefferson to that this season. And then it's like you got Cooper DeJean, like able to hold his own, even though he's been more of a slot role this season. But I think it's just like the most even matchup of they were going so back and forth that if it wasn't like in the world of hypotheticals, like let's say pick a random team.
The Chiefs.
All right, let's say it was like theoretically.
I picked a bad example.
Kind of, but it was like theoretically the same game, just replace the opposite team with the Chiefs. The Phillies cornerbacks against the Chiefs receivers. It would be a little bit in favor of the corners, in my opinion. A little bit of a home field advantage, but also we saw the Super Bowl. And we saw how well they did during the Week 2 game. And then the Chiefs corners versus Minnesota's receivers with how Wentz played, I think that's a Minnesota matchup any day of the week.
Right. An actually pretty interesting game. The Eagles won 28-22. It was striking. It was a classic Carson Wentz game in terms of you see the flashes. You see the flashes, particularly post-concussion, where you see the flashes of why this guy was picked number 2, why this guy was an MVP candidate at one point, and why a lot of Eagles fans were really hesitant to give up on him after all these years.
And then Jalen Hurts showed up and was like, oh yeah, this is why we gave up on him.
Right, exactly. Where, like, there were 2 or 3 plays where he would scramble around, using his size to, like, shed off tacklers and make plays on the ground and, like, give himself room to throw the ball. There were a couple... That incompletion that... And maybe that's the point, because it was slightly off target, so it was an incompletion into the end zone for TJ Hawkinson. Like, you see every now and then, he's still kind of got the arm, he's still kind of got the legs, and you just kind of see, like, the cool playmaking sort of razzmatazz that like justified people giving him a chance even post Eagles. But then you see the absolute butt water interceptions, the absolute just
one was
the
definitely not on him.
I'll give you that, but the other one was putrid,
ferocious.
Yeah, truly a what are you actually actively seeing on the field? And like, yeah, again, and that's like the same thing with Sam Darnold, where it's like you see the physical talent on display, but then it's just like he can't help himself but make a boneheaded move, or he just like his mechanics betray him and he just is a little off target. And you're like, what are you doing here? And again, that the game was that close, I do think is a testament to how truly elite the wide receiver room in Minnesota is. And why, like,
Madison is a dog.
He genuinely be the number 1 wide receiver on at least 15 NFL teams. Like again, it's the T Higgins thing where it's like, or the Devontae Smith thing
I
where it's
think
like any other team, you would be the number one guy and like fringe all pro all the time.
I think if we really ranked out like receivers, not including their position, just how good they are, I feel like Addison would be a top 10. And that's guaranteed a starting spot in almost every single team, unless if he's like with AJ Brown, Justin
Justin
Jefferson,
Jefferson
Jamar
or
Chase.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like prime Tyreek Hill would beat him out, but that's not who was carted off the other week.
Right? I genuinely am kind of like, I am genuinely kind of like, if he was on, if you just put him, if the Dolphins traded for him in the offseason, he would actually be the number one wide receiver over Waddle and Tyreek. Like, yeah, and you're right. And like one of the big claims to fame, of all the things that went right for the Eagles last year, it is like they kind of landed two fringe all pros at defensive back in just one try.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I guess for me, it's like my calmness about the Eagles during this whole thing was like they just have too much talent. The difference between them and the Bills is like the Bills don't have a lot of talent they can rely on to get them out of a rut, whereas the Eagles have a plethora of talent to get out of a rut. And even though, and like as some people who are like doomers have noted, a lot of the best plays, particularly the Devontae Smith plays, were like broken or out of structure or like go like sort of backyard football. And it's like, yeah, but that's the point of having talent.
Yeah, you see Jalen Hurts doing the static cue, like back up, I can throw it further thing in a couple of these plays, and I feel like that screams backyard football to me. Is seeing that like that gesture of go like back up.
Oh yeah, it's the classic. Yeah, and again, that's like the point of having talent, where it's like, yeah, sometimes you just don't get to make a cool play. Like sometimes you don't scheme up a cool play. Not everyone can be Ben Johnson and have like 14 like
distinct
plays that bamboozle and befuddled the defense. Like sometimes you really just need talented guys who can make a play out of structure. And the only other thing I thought about this game is really, truly, what do you do with the quarterback situation? Because Carson Wentz hasn't quite played well enough to justify keeping McCarthy on the bench, but they keep saying McCarthy's hurt.
I don't. What is going on with that? Like, is he just not?
As it goes on longer. Yeah, as it goes on longer and longer, I am convinced the like whispers and like conspiracies that it was like effectively a what's the word? Sort of pseudo benching are more accurate, because he was not particularly good in those two games he played. And I do think they had the pressure of like, this is a winnable, like, again, it's kind of weirdly the same problem the 49ers had, where it's like, this team is too talented to wait around for a guy to figure it out. Which is why my like radical, bold proposition probably isn't the right idea.
But
Anthony Richardson, but
Anthony
I think a lot about how the week after Anthony Richardson got benched last year for Joe Flacco, the coach of the Vikings, whose name is failing me right now for some reason, went up to him after the game and was like, "You're going to have a long, great career in this league, man. Don't you worry." And I keep thinking about all the pre-draft whispers that the Vikings really wanted to trade up, because they were fine with the entire like 6-man rookie quarterback class, but they really liked that top four between Caleb, Daniels, May, and Richardson. Kind of the consensus, like these are the first four guys who will go.
Oh, absolutely.
And I am kind of like, if O'Connell can pull this off, I remembered his name. If McConnell could make Anthony Richardson work, and he worked with this offense, and I'm like, no, that's too. I say as Anthony Richardson last week, you can tell we were bored with last week because I completely forgot the story that Anthony Richardson fractured his orbital bone, which is another way of saying he broke his face, working with bands. He was just warming up with like those like power band things you get, and just apparently one ricocheted and hit him directly in the eye, and he had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, that's its own level of crazy.
Right. I just don't like, I get there's a lot of like utility purposes why people do them, particularly for people who are like disabled. Like again, my dad used them a lot, but I just don't really understand like I don't know. They just seem so dangerous. I'm just like, I don't want to get whipped. I don't want to get whipped with anything.
Yeah.
It just seems like a bad like I know a actual dumbbell can crush me, but I feel like I have more strategies to avoid getting crushed than I do a erratic piece of rubber whipping and hitting me in the
Yeah,
face.
because that's also, I mean, that's also the difference of like a dumbbell will only fall so fast at you.
Exactly. It has one or two ways it can go. A rubber
Yeah.
band can go anywhere.
I was gonna say a rubber band when like that goes like 100, like could go over 100 miles per hour, like just whipping at you. Dumbbell would get like, I don't know, 10. I haven't timed how the speed of a dumbbell falling, but yeah.
Exactly. So we'll put that one in the maybe category. The don't sleep on games. I kind of have a weird one. Washington, Dallas. So the Cowboys ended up it was never particularly close, and it got even worse in the back half of the game. They ended up winning 43-22. I wanted to bring this up for two reasons. One, for the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb is back, and I am kind of bullish on them as a playoff team now. I do love the stories coming out, like, they're going to be bullish in the trades. They're going to try and package that Micah Parsons pick for a defensive player, and it's like, it's like when we trade, just like when we do trades in fantasy just for the sake of doing trades, where it's like moving. I'm trying to even think of an example that isn't like, if we moved like Tetero and McMillan for like Wandale Robinson, where it's like, this truly feels like why are we wasting energy on this? But CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown. George Pickens, 4 catches, 82 yards. I think it's good in the sense that this offense can sustain multiple wide receivers, so you're not losing the very exciting upside you were getting from Pickens. On top of the fact that they're still running the ball very well. Again, Javonte Williams, I really do think, I know he's played a couple years since his ACL tear, but I'm like, no, he should be comeback player of the year this year because he looked dead. He looked like a zombie for most of the last 2 seasons as he recovered from his knee injury. And I really do just think, like, they are like they're like the diet Bengals in terms of like, yes, they're going to have to win every game by scoring 44, but I absolutely believe they can score 44 every game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I kind of think the Commanders' season is unfortunately over. They're only 3-4. They still have time, but it kind of feels like this was like if the season was going to be as exciting and fun as they were hoping it would be, it kind of had to happen now.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like the revenge tour season that I think they hypothetically wanted.
Right.
Where, I mean, I don't know why I said revenge tour, like they were doing terrible last season. But
follow-up tour, I guess, for lack of a better word.
The sequel series, because it's like,
yes,
you got these weird, and I'll get into it, like their game this upcoming week in a little bit, but it's like you got these like weird matchups against like decent teams where it's like you beat the Chargers pretty handedly, but you lost to the Cowboys, and you barely lost to the Bears, but you like beat the Raiders pretty distinctly, and then it's like, but we lost to the Falcons. It's like you're all over the place. There isn't like a level of consistency where it's like, okay, this team will beat bad teams but lose to some stronger teams. Plucky wild card spot.
Exactly.
It's like, no, you're kind of all over the place with how well you're doing.
Exactly. Last year, they were kind of like a plucky upstart team who won a lot of games with close scores and like punched above their weight class regularly and beat the teams who they were supposed to beat. And this year, as a combination of injuries, as a combination of some of the sort of older veterans they brought in kind of slowing down, yeah, you're right. They just haven't been able to consistently win the games they're supposed to win or punch above when they're supposed to punch above. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't look very good against the Packers. That Falcons game was bewildering. They did beat the Chargers, but also the Chargers were hurt to hell. And then they lose to the Bears and Cowboys, who are theoretically, like, again, I know they were in the NFC title again. In terms of raw talent, they're probably a little closer to the Cowboys Bears than they are, like, the Eagles, Lions. And, like, you know, I will say, I feel it's interesting because they are one of the 3 teams with a young, cool quarterback who we've kind of witch casted to be Super Bowl teams: the Packers, the Commanders, and the Texans. And whereas the Packers are frustrating just because they're kind of boring and they aren't like, they aren't doing it sexily. They're still winning, but it's not like the
It's
cool,
it's
like,
not the
yeah,
cool. I'm going to destroy everyone we come
yeah.
up against. It's like,
Sherman is marching to the #1 seed sort of thing we were expecting when they traded for Micah.
yeah,
They're still winning the games, but like, you know, it's just like, okay, you're not head and shoulders above everyone else as we are hoping. And the Texans, like, I feel like we've kind of just stopped talking about the Texans because it's not only kind of a bummer, but like, what can we say that we haven't already said? Like, the problem is the offensive line is bad, and it just makes everything slug. And like, the only advantage they have is that the defense is really good.
yeah.
Whereas I think the Commanders are in the middle, where like they've had a lot of injuries this year. Daniels has been in and out of the line. Like, I feel like this isn't.
About that. Yeah, no, he's been so inconsistently in games.
I believe he's expected to miss the Chiefs game and maybe the Seattle game. And like, honestly, maybe that's for the best because it lets you kind of just reset and say, like, we were able to get further than we thought we would last year based off of like low expectations and like veteran competency. Now we have to figure out how do we get an influx of like talent? How do we get an influx of youth? So, like, this isn't a disaster for them. It's just a little disappointing. And, like, it happens. Again, progress isn't linear. Sometimes a team takes a step back, they have to reassess, and come back either stronger or weaker. It'll be a bummer if it continues to happen into the coming seasons. And who knows? Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe they'll turn around and still make the playoffs. But it does kind of feel like them kind of trying to fight their way to the competitor table at least feels over for this year.
I think they should fight their way to be healthy because also hasn't Terry McLaurin been out or like
Yes, for
questionable?
huge chunks of the year.
Yeah, so I think they have a pretty solid team that they just need to heal up, and then maybe get like a mid first round draft pick out of what they can do with like the 15 to like 20 pick where it's like, all right, we're not going to get somebody that's like, oh god, we need to change everything, but we can get like possibly the first receiver, possibly like a little like the first safety, a more underrated position that they can. I'm not saying those are positions that they need, but like they can finagle with that a little bit more than like, okay, we need to get the first pick so we can get the best quarterback of the draft or we're screwed.
Right. Everything feels calmer because, again, they got the hard parts right. They've cleaned out the culture and they got the quarterback. Everything else there is just a matter of taking a deep breath and figuring out, like, you just gotta decide what kind of football team you want to be.
Yeah.
I do think like they've had the advantage of not having to think about that, for lack of a better word, because they were just winning. And your game, probably the game of the year, question mark, at this time of year, question mark, centralized exclusively in Denver, Colorado, question mark?
He's back, baby. All right.
Kind of. I don't know if I should say that about. This is more of a weird game than a game of the year.
Yeah, it was incredibly weird. It was Giants versus Broncos. Final score 32 to 33. But going into the fourth quarter, not the half, not like the second quarter, going into the last 15 minutes of the game, 19 to 0 in favor of the Giants.
Yes. The narratives that could have come out from this game that don't exist are almost as fascinating as the narratives that come out.
Yeah, there is the Broncos were just like, all right, we're tired of losing, or the Giants defense was like, all right, we're tired of winning, something like that. And it was just like an absolute turnaround and an insane, like 19 to 0 that led to 32-33. Let's see, there was a touchdown at 14 minutes, a touchdown at 10 minutes, a touchdown at 5 minutes. Which, by the way, they made two back-to-back two successful 2-point conversions. The Broncos.
Mhm.
Another touchdown at just shy of 4 minutes. Another touchdown at just right after the 2-minute warning. Another touchdown, a touchdown at 37 seconds for the Giants, and then a field goal to win the game. Cementing field goals win games.
And they can lose games because the kicker for the Giants missed a extra point that would have allowed this to be a tied game and go into overtime. Yeah, I almost don't know what to say about this game because truly, even halfway through the fourth quarter, it's like 26-16 Denver, and I'm like, oh, or 26-16 New York Giants, and I'm like, this game is basically over. What? And
Dude,
you don't really realize how many points were scored in that final quarter.
Yeah.
Right?
I would feel
like
anyone who left early, it's like, dude, that sucks.
Right, because even like, okay, Denver scores basically to kick off the fourth quarter. And it's like 19-8. That's a competitive score. But then the Giants come right back, march downfield, and score. The Broncos defense was bafflingly off today. And it wasn't just like they were getting outplayed or getting bullied around by apparently the toughest team in fucking football, evidently. Yeah. No, it was like blown coverage. Like the first touchdown of the game was just a complete blown coverage where Dart goes full backyard football, throws it off his back foot, and gets caught by the tight end. And that was just kind of the theme of the day for the Broncos, just always in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, it's 26-8 with only seven-ish or 9-ish minutes left in the game, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of over. It's probably done. Dart throws a difficult interception where he's probably trying to do a little too much, and that basically swings the momentum of the game where Denver's able to take the lead. And it really was, I don't know. I guess you have to give credit to a team who somehow managed to score all 33 of their points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but I really did kind of just feel like the Giants blew this one for me.
Oh, the Giants absolutely blew it. But you have to also give the Broncos credit because it's not like if it was like 14 points, it's like, all right, yeah, you blew it.
Teams score 14 points all the time.
Yes. 33 is an insane number to just be blown by the defense.
Right.
Also, you gotta give as much as I'm not a big fan of giving in division rivals compliments, you gotta give Jackson Dart some credit. That dude tried and balled out so hard and was let down by his defense.
Right, and he takes the fall because he threw the interception, and he really scored too early in the final drive. There was a weird sequence where he dived for the end zone, didn't get it. They reviewed it and said he got it, and it almost gave the Broncos too much time to come back. But it's going to be an interesting test for the Giants going forward because again, the narratives that would have come out of this game, the Giants would be 3-4. They'd be going against the Eagles again. It's like, could you take 2 from the Eagles and kind of weirdly have an opportunity to take this division? Whereas now it looks like they're back to mock draft season. And for the Bronco, it's easy to be swaggery and full of beans and nonsense when you're the scrappy upstart team who's beating teams you're not supposed to. When you lose a truly catastrophic game like that, can you bounce back from that? And for the Broncos, this is one, it lets them keep the pace up against the Chiefs, and but also, well, yes, and the Chargers, thank you. This could have been a really difficult conversation about shoot, were we wrong about Bo Nix? He's looked kind of bad this year. For him to sort of keep it together and get them the lead at the end of the game does kind of feel like it doesn't save everyone's jobs. This wasn't a job saving. This isn't unlike Brian Daboll, no one's trying to save their jobs in Denver right now. But it would have been let's not commit to anyone too long term sort of moment.
That's when the 10-year contracts become 3-year contracts. Mm-hmm. That's what happened in this game. Although I will say, this because I'm getting really sold on Dart, and he might be saving Daboll's job, game by game, and I feel like them being 2-5 is extremely unfair because there was this like little bit of time management issues for the game that just happened.
Mm.
And then it's like you beat the Eagles and the Chargers, who aren't laughable teams. You got into overtime with the Cowboys. You kind of got shown up by the Commanders and the Chiefs. And it was actually a really fun game with the Saints. I feel like some of these are like some of the earlier games though for them this season. If Dart has been would like theoretically play like he did, like he has been in like full game style, I see them picking up like they could have possibly picked up that win against the Cowboys. I don't think they would have been able to beat the Chiefs per se, but I think they would have been a lot less.
It would have been at least a pleasant, yeah. They're not embarrassing anymore, and that's the thing. And like, I think that's goal number 1 is to not be embarrassing. Goal number 2 is not to lose, because if you put up spirited fights against teams who are objectively better than you, despite the Giants having the Giants have always had more talent than we think. The problem is just like it never harmonizes because that talent is completely dependent on a decent quarterback. So Quan Barkley needed a decent quarterback to be great.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors needs a decent quarterback to be great. Like all the talent you're accumulating
for the season, by the way, and they're pulling,
and they're still looking competent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, this team does not suck nearly as much. And honestly, I'd even argue like I feel like the defense is still leaving something on the table. I feel like again they haven't fully unlocked the combination of pass rushers they want to really push the envelope.
Yeah.
Like this team has room to grow, and it really just comes down to like how confident are you that Brian Daboll can fix the flubs that keep them from winning? And I guess that's a hard question because again, they look good enough.
I think this is a day like even though they're doing terribly, I think this might be a Daboll saving season. Where I'm not saying he's going to get something long term out of it, but I'm like if he got I don't know like a smaller contract and maybe depending on how much influence he had over like the Dart, the Scadaboo acquisitions and stuff like that. It's like if he had a lot more influence than he's like what I'm led to believe as previously, I think him getting more influence and getting these like solid picks could turn things around for them.
Right.
I'm not saying like they're gonna be the best team next season, but if they're smart, they could be.
Right. I think you're getting to something interesting because I think the big argument coming into this offseason, why should you keep like if they're in the meeting, it's like, all right, we just had yet another one of the worst seasons in this team's history, which is saying a lot considering how it's been lately. We got absolutely pantsed and humiliated by the Philadelphia Eagles, and like our dirty laundry was aired on national television to the point no one is ever gonna do Hard Knocks offseason ever again.
No.
Why do you deserve to keep your job? And the argument was always going to be, well, I'm the quarterback guy. I'm the guy who made Josh Allen work, and I didn't get to pick the quarterback. I made an okay quarterback pretty good, and you guys decided you wanted to give him the contract. Hey, don't look at me. I would have been fine moving on from him. I would have Tyrod Taylored that motherfucker to go get my Josh Allen. Let me go get my Josh Allen. And like, I will say, it is striking how similar Josh Allen is one of one in terms of, like, the only other guy who's a relevant physical comparison in terms of draft prospects is Cam Newton. And I guess Anthony Richardson, but, like, that's not really working out at all. But, like, you know, Jackson Dart isn't that. But in terms of play style, it's like, okay, he's raw around the edges, he's still making some bonehead plays, and it's more kind of like a plucky attitude than adult quarterbacking. But you're seeing enough that it's like, yeah, at this point, I don't think it comes down to do we have a winning record or not. It comes down to, like, vibes. And if there's a version of this where the vibes fall apart after this game because that was so embarrassing and difficult, but there's a version of this where they keep the vibes up, give the Eagles a run for their money, if not beat them, beat at least the Cowboys at least once or the Commanders at least once, and do just well enough that it's like, all right, one more chance, you keep getting to pick your players.
Yeah.
like, again, the selling point is now it's my team. I'm Brian Dayball. I will prove to you that, I will prove to you that that I'm capable of making a great team.
Yeah, I think this is a safe. Like he's gonna be pretty safe.
Yeah, I think beating the
Unless
Eagles
it's
at least gives you a couple considerations.
yeah, I think that I think as long as they look competent for the rest of the season, he's fine. If they make it to like week 11 and then they like Dart gets hurt or something like that, and they look stupid again, I feel like that's what's gonna destroy him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right, it truly is, and like you can tell he knows that because he keeps just being like, he's just got to make the plays that are there. He just has to play it cool. He's just got to not, force it. And he's like, bitch, if you have like a 3 interception game and we lose by 40, I'm gonna get fired. I don't care if we lose 14-13, just don't have a turnover.
yeah,
The lows, man. I don't even have anything fun left to say about the Cowboys or Dolphins, man. Just truly
what about the
two
Jets
absolute.
like you wrote?
What did I? Oh, how did I write it?
You said Cowboys.
Oh God, I don't have anything fun to say about the Jets or the Dolphins. The Jets lose a miserable 13-6 game against Carolina. Again, Carolina like actively kind of was like, you can have this win if you want. They bench. Oh God.
That was so bizarre watching because it was like the previous 2 weeks. It's like, all right, we're gonna have this crazy running game that
Yes.
can't be competed with, and then they just don't run at all. And I was like, all right, I was expecting because I have Rico Dowdle. It's like, all right, Chuba Hubbard's back. I'm expecting him to get less points, but still be like a decent bit. And then it was just like I was like, wow, he's got way less attempts than I thought he would have at this point. And then I like looked at everyone's stats, and I'm like, oh, it's not just him. It's Hubbard too. It's like they're afraid to run it against the Jets.
Right. It's interesting because it's like, I get they want to split the carries to keep both of them healthy, and I get you paid Chuba Hubbard the money and he's a good guy. But like at some point you kind of have to realize when you're at carry 13 and he hasn't been able to get over 40 yards that he might not have it today, and you should probably just run with the hot hand. And also like
But like the attempts were low for the game too.
right. I'm sorry. This is not a team who does a 32-36 split right now passing to running. This needs to be a 20-45 sort of split right now. Like, because again, it's like, I know a part of the job this season is to figure out if Bryce Young is a good quarterback or not. But I also do think for morale, it is also necessary to like win games. And if that means Bryce Young is more of like the suggestion of a quarter passing offense than literally a passing offense, you kind of have to accept that. And yeah, case in point, he goes out. They still continue to not really pass the ball well. Fields, it somehow seemed worse than 6 of 12 for 46 yards and 3 sacks.
It was
net
yucky.
20 yards.
It was yucky.
And the saddest part is the theory that Tyrod could be a competent grown-up quarterback who at least keeps you competitive in the game didn't prove out because he threw one really bad interception, and admittedly one was an incredible play by J.C. Horn one-handed. But like, yeah, so basically I think a lot of
that one to Horn. That was
yeah. Again, it's so funny that I believe him and Surtain were in the same draft. Both teams needed quarterbacks. And like, I think a lot of people gave them guff of like, you got to get the quarterback first. You got to get the quarterback first. And it's like, okay, but if you look back at that draft class, literally it's funny because that was the Justin Fields draft class. It is kind of like, no, sometimes just pick the most talented guys. Sometimes you can build a culture in different ways, which is why the Panthers actually look like a sort of peppy, exciting team right now. But yes, so even the hope that, even the tiny hope that Tyrod could rally them to a victory, it wasn't the case. And that's a problem because that means there really isn't any light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Dolphins just got their absolute crap kicked out of them. What was the final score?
Slobber-knockered. It was 31-6 against. Both teams went into it 1-5.
That's holy cow.
And it was to the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, who just truly ran all over them. It was a perfect storm of the Dolphins are too soft to stand up to a power rushing offense or a tough defensive line. But also, it's raining, and Tua simply does not play in the rain.
Tua plays at like 60 to 70 degrees in 1 o'clock, maybe the 4 o'clock time slot. That is when he's at his best.
Yeah, and it really is. And I feel more bad. I'm trying to decide who I feel worse for. I guess I feel bad. I do feel bad for Justin Fields because he's gotten a lot of raw deals in the NFL so far. And I just kind of wish the tape was better so I could fully embrace, like, it's not his fault.
Yeah, the tape is really failing Justin Fields, who is seemingly doing worse than that Bears team that like he was on, which technically, like at least to me, doesn't make sense. But
Right.
I think I think Tua is a behind the scenes problem where I've said it last year, I said it before this year, where it's just like they need to get him a good backup because the guy just can't, like, he just has these games where he just can't compete. Don't know why. He's got Devon Achan, uh, now hurt Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Um, but he went 12 for 23 in throwing, 100 yards, and 3 interceptions. And then they put in their backup, Quinn Ewers.
The Texas, well, he looks better now because, again, the complaint about Quinn Ewers was like, why are we playing him over a Manning kid? And the Manning kid now plays, and everyone's like,
Oh, maybe that's why.
oh, I see. But, like, yeah, it is. And it really is just the masterclass in why bad franchises stay bad. Because on one hand, you have the Dolphins, who are run by Chris Greer. Honestly, I'm putting this more on Greer than I'm putting on McDaniel. I feel like people could have, people figured out pretty quick that McDaniel wasn't necessarily the best leader of men to handle adversity. But Greer has doubled down on all of their worst instincts of, like, the Achan thing is the interesting thing, because it's like, you've had 3 seasons with Tua where you've gotten bullied off the field in all of the games that matter. Why are you doubling down on speed and smallness?
Yeah. He's a solid running back that you need to be like doing.
You were not the team that needed him.
Offensive line stuff with.
Right, exactly. And like his picks on the offensive line and defensive line continue to fail. I love the, and on top of that, you have an organization that is still kind of actively under investigation by the NFL for like possibly throwing games. The Brian Flores lawsuit stuff is quietly going on in the background of all of this. I love a conspiracy that Chris Greer is only still employed because it's like if he gets fired, he has no reason not to talk to the NFL. I don't know if you remember, but it was 2 different stories from the owner of the Dolphins. One, that he got on a boat with Tom Brady and Sean Payton and basically tried to collude to get them both to Miami. Then there was the story that Brian Flores claims, and the NFL has quietly refused to confirm either way, of, hey, Flores, don't worry about it, man. We're not trying to win this year. Just, tell you what, I'll write a check for $1,000 every loss you get. And then he goes on a 7-game winning streak to end the season and really pissed off the owner. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're dealing with. Meanwhile, the Jets owner has been a complete, he's not interested in running the team, really. He's busy being like a friend of this presidential administration. Woody Johnson, half the time he's owned this team, he's been the ambassador to the UK for some reason. Like, he's watched this team just be completely inept for years and kind of waste the talent they actually had. And then has the audacity to go into an interview and just be like, well, yeah, I can't blame the coach. If a quarterback can't hit the side of a barn, what do you expect to happen? And poor Justin Fields gets told this story by a press person, and, like, what is he supposed to say?
Yeah. That's its own level of crazy.
Where it's like, dude, you're the one who organizes this team. You're the owner of this team. You put all the pieces in place. You could have said no to Justin Fields. You could have said no to Aaron Glenn. You could have said no to anyone in this. You could actually run your team instead of being a freaking ambassador for some reason. Like, and I do feel bad because these two teams do have a legacy. They do have built-in fan bases who will never leave, no matter how bad it gets. Like, this isn't like the Carolina Panthers where it's like, if you're a Panthers fan, no one's gonna blame you for jumping ship and switching teams. Like, whatever. There's plenty of teams in the area if you want to keep it local. Like, no shame, no nothing.
Yeah, you live.
Whereas, like,
you could go up north a little bit to Baltimore, Washington. You could go down south to Atlanta.
exactly. Whereas these, again, these franchises have existed. Like, these are OG franchises.
Yeah.
Like,
West to Tennessee.
they're supposed to mean something.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, what is happening with these two teams? I still think they should have tied.
Yeah, it would have been funnier if they tied. Because I'm genuinely like, I don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think there's a game that the Jets can win this year. And it's not like, and this isn't like the Browns who are actively trying to lose. Again,
Yeah.
like, they're trying. This was an effort. Like, they're like, we're building a culture. Like, even with, like, the rock bottom, like, Zach Wilson era, they were still winning games. They could still squeak a couple out. They have nothing.
This is
Nothing.
Yeah, and their only chances, I would say, for the rest of the season is Dolphins round 2.
That's, oh my God.
'Cause it's
Maybe
like-
that's why they're waiting to fire Mike McDaniel. They're like, can you at least beat the Jets?
Yeah, like upcoming, they got old man, wise wizard Flacco Bengals once again. Coming up, and then it's like, all right, we have dominant defense Browns, a scary good Patriots twice, the Ravens who can't be this bad with the amount of talent they have, and hopefully time for people to heal. Falcons, Jaguars, and Saints who are this fun level of talented versus untalented, where they're more on the talented side of the spectrum. And then the Bills in Week 18. Which that might be their only win if the Bills are like, yeah, we're cool. We're gonna do.
If they actively throw another final game to keep a team from getting the first pick.
Maybe like that, but like, yeah, Josh Allen does his little sprint out there, gets the one snap, throws it, and then waves to everyone goodbye as he leaves.
I still can't believe they pulled that shit. That's so dumb.
I loved it.
That shouldn't count. I'm sorry. That's such horseshit. That can't count towards someone's starting record.
No, I agree with that. I think you should at least play a drive. Minimum.
You have to play a half as far as I'm concerned. That's hogwash.
But it's still very funny that they did that. Anyway, Monday night.
The Monday night games just kind of stunk. I'm gonna be real with you. Again, part of my comment about the Texans was like,
it was
the only reason they were even close in that game was because the defense was like getting under Darnold's skin. A reminder that as much as I like the Seahawks now, Darnold is still capable of some stinkers. But like, the offense is just not competitive, and I don't like. It's not fun to watch. It's not dynamic. The sort of splash plays Stroud was making just aren't there anymore. It was just kind of sad to watch.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun. He's got Nico. He's got Dalton Schultz, who's a tight end, as his top receiver way too many times. But it's the CJ Stroud show, who he puts up the best stat lines as he can with his what he has access to and his linemen. I'll give him that. But it's because it's 23 for 49, 229 yards, a touchdown, an interception isn't the world's worst stat line out there.
Right.
But considering what he has to work with, where he's also the top rusher of the team with 25 yards and 2 carries,
that's especially 2 carries. What the actual fuck? Yeah. It's not even like he's just running for his life then.
No, it's the dude is trying his best, and the defense is at least hell yeah, we're gonna bring the hurt.
Exactly. Truly, the only reason we're not talking about this being a clean house sort of job is because the defense You have a defensive coach, and he's objectively made a good defense.
Yes.
But like, and on the other end of the spectrum, the Seahawks or the Lions Tampa game, definitely a byproduct of Tampa being very hurt, but just the most upsetting like, look, we've made some clips about, we've made probably too many jokes about Nick Chubb's knee or Tua Tagovailoa's concussion history.
Yeah.
But like Mike Evans getting the combination broken collarbone and concussion genuinely was one of the bleaker moments I've seen in terms of like, oh, this is like actually scary. Like, this man is unconscious and cannot move his, like, he's walking off the field with his eyes closed.
Yeah, he's done so.
Yeah, they're saying he's on IR. He could theoretically come back at some point this season. But like, I think it would be really hard to do,
I think if he wants to play again, he's going to have to let his 1,000-yard record drop. And
it would have to be playoffs only.
Playoffs only being generous, in my opinion. I think he should logically just stop for the season.
Yes. For the record,
he went back-to-backs with hefty injuries.
Yes. So he will not break Jerry Rice's consecutive 1,000-yard streak, most likely, unless he comes back. He can come back with 4 games left. He would need to go for 215 per game. I'd like to see him try, but he shouldn't try.
I mean, actually, well, final 4 games: Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers.
No, we can't talk ourselves into this. We cannot talk ourselves into this.
And the one before the Falcons game is Saints, so they shouldn't. They definitely shouldn't. I still am both feet on the ground. The dude should be done for the season. Just give up on this record-breaking thing. Jerry Rice is arguably one of the greatest of all time anyway, so it's not like it's like a record behind Terry McLaurin, where it's just like, all right, weird that he has this record. I could probably beat it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm second place to Jerry Rice, and it's just like, oh shit, dude, that's like being second place to Barry Sanders.
And I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I'll save my unrelated notable note for a minute, but I do want to just also, we have one more low light. Then I have to tell you a really funny thing that just came up on my desk.
Okay.
But Vegas joins the Zero Club. Genuinely, the saddest. If there's a sadder game of football this season, I don't want to see it. I want us to erase it. A 31-0 drubbing of the Las Vegas Raiders to the Kansas City Chiefs. Really the only second shutout of this year.
It's the third one.
Third one. What were the other two again?
Panthers.
Oh, that weird game.
That
yes.
weird absolute smoke show. And then it was the Titans getting humiliated by the Texans. And then
that tracks.
The Panthers getting humiliating the Falcons. Yes.
Yes.
Falcons.
To underline what this game was, Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdowns and almost 300 yards before getting pulled about 3/4 of the way through the third quarter. So they played an entire quarter without their starting quarterback. Despite needing to score at least once, the Raiders absolutely gave up and put Kenny Pickett, of all people, in. And with 2 minutes, 31 seconds left, the Chiefs went into victory formation. Keep in mind, you're only really supposed to go into victory formation if there's under 2 minutes left and both teams have used their timeouts. But because the game was so out of hand, both teams mutually agreed to just gut it out and let the clock run down.
Yeah. Which is insane that it happened.
Right. Like, it is close to a mercy rule as we will ever see in the NFL for a team that had pretty decent expectations going into this year. And truly...
smoked.
Yes. And truly just simply can't produce anything. If it's not the turnovers, it's the penalties. And if it's not the penalties, it's that the offensive line can't block anyone. Yeah. And if it's not that, it's the defense doesn't have nearly as much talent as we thought. And also Max Crosby's hurt because he insists on playing every snap.
Yeah, no, it was just sad. And like last week we were talking about like the questionality of the Chiefs wins and stuff like that. And it's just like, like especially because it's like, all right, they're not getting any flags and stuff like that, but it's like, no, they got flags this game too. It was
Hmm.
it was just a one-sided massacre.
It
All right,
was truly non-competitive from the jump.
here's how
But yes,
here's how non-competitive they are. Total plays by the Kansas City Chiefs, 77. Total plays by the Vegas Raiders, 30. First downs by the Kansas City Chiefs, also 30.
baffling.
In
I just like you're not allowed to lose by this much in the NFL. Especially again, a team that spent money, a team that and maybe that's the problem. We've talked about this team in the context of like it is a weird Frankenstein's monster of pieces from like three different builds, three different coaching regimes, three different sort of visions, three different attempts to be relevant in the AFC West. And maybe instead of like pushing all of your chips in, getting the biggest name coaches you could get, getting the flashy running back and the best quarterback theoretically on the market, although I guess it turned out to be Sam Darnold. Um, Maybe the option should have been go young and just start fresh, full top down. Like at some point, you just can't keep adding parts to a thing. At some point, like you just kind of have to knock it over and start fresh.
Yeah, there's only so much they can do, and it was just such a crazy, sad performance. And like you can't be
Geno Hive is in shambles.
unless if there's this is part of the NFL scandal, which would be or the NBA scandal, which would be wild. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, I got something real fun for you on that front.
Hit me.
So, someone who's implicated in this is Gilbert Arenas. Are you particularly familiar with Gilbert Arenas?
No.
He was like a brief, like sort of. He wasn't quite a flash on the pan, but he was a guy who had a really quick rise and a pretty quick fall to relevancy. Partially because of injuries, but also because he brought a loaded gun into a NBA facility and caused a mini controversy and got suspended for an indefinite amount of time.
Okay. I did
Mostly
hear
famous
about
for
that. I didn't know it was him though.
Yes, mostly famous for playing on the Washington Wizards and trying to bring that team to relevancy. A team who famously was named the Washington Bullets before they had to change their name because gun violence had gotten too bad in DC, and everyone agreed it was a bit of a bad look. Anyway, I did not realize he had been implicated in all of this and apparently spent the night in jail before posting bail. Gilbert Arenas, after spending, and he decided, I'm going to do my podcast today after I get out of jail. Gilbert Arenas, after spending a night in jail with the Mafia for gambling. It looks like y'all stressed. Good luck in court. I'm pretty sure I'm not going because I'm snitching. I love this man.
This is good.
He's the gift that. It's gonna be. Oh my God. I'm just like, please protect. God, please protect him. Please, whatever divinity you can put around him to prevent mob-based incident. Please. One, because I want public record of the things he could say in court, but also because it would be so funny if he actually does snitch and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
Hell, the NBA is probably planning some kind of sanctioned like takedown right now. Or they're gonna find some family. They're gonna go full Godfather 2, where they'll put like important family member in the court and scare him into being like, I don't know anything. These guys lied to me. Anyway, we don't really have any notable notes for the week other than that. Question of the week. Make a trade, any trade. Let's just keep it simple. Partially because I'm thinking about the NBA and how much they love to trade, but also we keep being told this is going to be the biggest trade deadline of the NFL history. We keep being told there's going to be like 2 or 3 trades a week leading up to the final. I don't believe that, but if it does happen, who are you moving?
This could be a fun, possibly season helping and enhancing thing. Give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the Chiefs center.
Creed Humphreys?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Humphreys is arguably one of the best centers, like easily top 5. I like him a little bit better than the Buccaneers one, but I feel like that's like a very interesting shift. That or let's send the Colts a true star wide receiver one.
Who do you have in mind?
Based off of the season and who just needs to like burn things down or restart or whatever the hell they need to do, give them like Zay Flowers or Nico Collins.
Oh man, that's bold because those names aren't on the block. We're talking like Garrett Wilson stuff. That would be fun though.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
no. Yeah, my trade was just made up by me in my brain.
oh yeah, I am. There's a lot of different directions I could take this in. But one thing I'm thinking a lot about is like I actually think the 49ers quietly, and like we haven't brought them up a lot recently, but like this has quietly kind of been a masterclass of coaching that they're still 5-2. Fred Warner is now out for the year, a man who is I don't think he's literally missed a single game in his like 11-year NFL career. So you're down to one returning starter. And you kind of already spent the money on your offense. Like the money's there, you're making it work. Christian McCaffrey's quietly having one of the greatest wide receiver seasons anyone's ever had, except he's actually a running back, so that's weird. So I'm going to say, why don't we double down on defense? I'm taking Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle, who's apparently pretty disgruntled right now from the New York Jets, and moving him over to the 49ers, giving them one just, again, you can't rebuild a whole defense at this point, but you can elevate what you already have with one stone cold motherfucker. Yeah, that guy has been good for yeah.
A cheeky trade, getting a solid W.
Exactly. I really, really liked that one. And you know what? I will do a wide receiver one too, but not the usual teams, mind you. I'm not going to go with giving the Bills someone. I'm not going to go with giving the Patriots someone. I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants. There's a lot of talk that yes, they can use one, both because, Neighbors is out for the rest of the year, but also in general, they could really use a number 2 guy, a reliable, as good as Wan'Dale Robinson can be at times. They don't really have like a full number 2 wide receiver they can rely on. And right now, the New Orleans Saints kind of have 2 guys who they're kind of like, maybe we'll trade them, maybe they won't. As they're kind of deciding what. Yes, they're kind of in this weird spot where we all know they're in a rebuild, but they kind of want to keep as much of the town as they can. And I think between Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed, I would like to see one of them go to the New York Giants. So by the time next year, assuming you keep Daboll, assuming you keep the infrastructure and don't really change the plan, you will go in with Malik Neighbors back and a reliable number 2 alongside him, and kind of low-key have a decent functioning offense ready to go for year 2. And then it's like the put up or shut up year of like, this was the year you established this is the year we established this current year is the year we established the culture. Now it's the, okay, but you have to make the playoffs this year or this is over year.
I actually like that a lot. I feel like they are an immediate answer to their current wide receiver situation, but also a long-term answer.
Right, because I feel like so many of these trade deadline wish castings are like, put good guy on Super Bowl team. And it's like, yeah, but why would the other team do that? Like, it'd be, again, you've seen how, like, sad the Giants are that Saquon Barkley won a Super Bowl a year after he left.
Yeah.
Like, it makes more sense to send it to a team that's further ahead on the rebuild to help them jump the line.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You make sense, Wizard. But
Right.
Yeah, no, I actually
and cast fireball.
I like that more than my picks, because that is like the right amount of like you can easily get a fair trade out of that between the 2 teams, but it's just enough in the Giants' favor where it would benefit them more than almost anything they can give to the Saints.
Right. Because, like, let's actually think out. Like, okay, the Bills trade their first round pick for Chris Olave. It's like, all right, cool. So you're getting like somewhere between the 28th and the 32nd pick. Yeah. Neat. So you can get a Kyrie Elam or a Keon Coleman. Cool. Whereas, like, the Giants, it's like, okay, they'll be better, but are they going to be that much better this year? Are they really going to, like, yeah, you're going to get, like, a 15 to 17 pick.
Yeah, you'll get a top
That's
10
worst
pick
case.
where you can get something decent. And that's if there isn't any sort of trading up or... Wait, didn't they get rid of their first pick for...
No, they still have theirs.
Okay.
Oh, no, I think they only gave up a second for that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they traded up to, like, 30th. It tends to, I feel like everyone kind of understands, like, the first round picks, like 28 through 32 now are complete, like, dice rolls.
Yeah.
So like whatever. It's like it's harder to put the squeeze on someone for a first round pick now.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yes. So on to next week.
Yeah.
At long last, an all U.S. month.
U.S. only.
We're getting patriotic, baby.
We're gonna be able
So
to
tired of 9
watch.
o'clock.
Yeah, we're not gonna be waking up at the butt crack of dawn to watch football. We're also on the East Coast where it's not as much of the butt crack of dawn as it is on the West Coast. We
Yes.
got a huge slate of bye weeks. I think this is the biggest one of the season. We have Jacksonville, who is doing relatively solid. Maybe a little bit.
They've
of
gotten
cleaning up.
progressively sadder the last 2 weeks,
Yeah,
but
a little bit sad. I think this is your perfect opportunity to curb that. Um, save your season, save your jobs, everything like that. Then you have Vegas. I don't know, gamble.
yeah, just why not? You know what? Start a drama. Yeah,
Some-
destroy the league. Destroy the league with scandal.
Sometimes I don't have a good suggestion for what they should do, and it's not even like oh, rest up and come.
Because there
back
isn't
swinging.
one.
They don't really. They were just humiliated. I know what they could do. They could pray some other headline happens where that isn't still the most humiliating happening of the season.
I mean,
That's
also
how-
an option.
That's how they can spend their bye week. Detroit doing solid, making sure, like they were quite the top team last year. They're technically slightly behind, or they're ahead, but also like tied with the Packers because it's like yeah they have one full win more, but also percentage wise they still have one loss more because the Packers have that tie, but so it's really confusing on where they are. They got a solid, I would say, 50% difficult, 50% easier, but not like easy schedule for them. They got Packers, they got Eagles, they got Commanders, which that had a humiliating upset last playoff season. Steelers, Rams, Vikings, technically Vikings twice actually. Bears and Giants are thrown throughout there where it's like and Cowboys, so it's like all right, you guys got not an easy slate, so solid rest week. Arizona is another team that I don't know what the heck to do with. Like I would not have any idea what to do with.
I just think there's again, what's the end game of their season? You know,
they're the worst in their division, but also their division is very good. So they're 2-5. I think this is planning out your future. Literally. The NFC West. 49ers 5-2, Seahawks 5-2, Rams 5-2, Cardinals 2-5.
How the fuck did they get 3? That's wild. They did that.
That's crazy.
I just don't think that makes sense. I think at most you should only ever have 2 divisional teams taking a bye at the same time.
Yeah. Speaking of which, one of their other 2 divisional teams, it is Seahawks or Rams first, alphabetically. In my opinion, there has been like outside of this Jaguars game that they played, there's been a little slip in quality for some of their games, in my opinion. Like a very close loss to the 49ers in overtime. 17-3 win over the Ravens, which I feel like is terrible based off of how bad the Ravens have been.
Particularly on defense.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you got Stafford to throw into Puka and stuff. Although
Right.
I think this wasn't a Puka game, but you still have Kyren Williams, Tyler Higbee. You got talent.
Right.
So I don't think this is... I think that's like a little bit of a slip in quality barely beating the Colts, but we're learning the Colts are secretly a juggernaut. Barely beating the Texans, humiliating the Titans, which means nothing, losing to the Eagles. I think this is a hone it in moment because you have
Right.
still some of the more competitive division games with the Seahawks, 49ers, Seahawks again, but you also have Lions and Bucks. I think this is hone it in, develop your strategy, and don't deviate from the strategy.
You know what it is with them? I do think it is like we talk about this team in the context of the Super Bowl. That's what really is the main point of their season now. And I feel like they know that, and it feels like they're just kind of cruising through the regular season, and they're like, oh, we'll turn it on for the playoffs. And I'm just like, your division is too weird, and also the 49ers are too unkillable, like actual Michael Myers zombie, for you to like goof around like that. You kind of need to,
You gotta.
I think the easiest way, Again, I think the easiest way for you to actually get to the Super Bowl is to have a home field advantage, like you did for at least a chunk of your last run. Like, so you really got to step up. I really think, yeah, you're right. It is like a focus up. We need to be on our shit for the rest of the season going forward.
Like, use that practice time and like that off time that you don't practice during, but we all know the players secretly do practice and hang out and stuff outside of it. But they label it as Matt Stafford had a barbecue that the entire QB and wide receiving room had. What was that? Weird. Yeah, they threw around a football for fun, but they didn't actually like practice. It was just
Right.
It was a hobby. Yeah. If they hone in him not relying on Puka a little bit more, I think they become a scarier team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, as fun as it is, like, as fun as their, like, filter, like, funnel offense is, where it's like 3 guys get the ball at any given time, it's like, to a certain point, that's not sustainable. Like, you should not have people breaking the target and catch record.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's like, yeah, we can throw to A, B, or C, but how far do B and C go? Like, Puka can make a play, but but the others, I wouldn't say they can, like, they're not making plays, but I'm not saying they're playmakers. Then finally, Seahawks. Yeah, no, they're doing
Again,
solid.
they're my sleeper Super Bowl team now.
They're doing very solid. They're having good games against good teams, and they're winning ones that are like above reasonable to win against. So I think they're doing fine. I think they just need to not. I think they're on this fine string though of one injury to like JSN, Darnold, somebody with like a very key level of importance is going to be debilitating to them. Because Darnold's backup is Drew Lock, I believe.
Which, I'm going to be real. I'm watching some of the backup play in this league, and I'm like, I mean, I'd be willing to give
Drew Lock a shot.
Yeah. Like, he's not great, but, got an arm. I trust him more than Jake Browning.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so they're like just at this fun level of confidence where I don't think they need to hone in as much as the Rams because they haven't really dropped in quality. So they just need to like rest and not blow it.
Right.
That's all the buys.
Yes. God damn, that's a lot of buys. Biggest game of the week. I will let the scheduling czar give his opinion on this.
I'm actually a really big fan of your like main time slot games. Like compared to other games that are scheduled. Vikings Chargers as opening game where they're both like 3 losses each, chip on their shoulder, but not like too bad. I think that's going to be a
Two
very
teams with two teams with more talent than their record suggests, but current like big flaws, whether injury or like positional, that have held them back.
yeah. I think this is a very even in a fun way matchup, even though
Mm.
the only like issue it can cause is like for the others division like ranking because it's not like they're going to directly affect each other.
Yes.
Um, you got this slew of kind of there's some throwaway, some not throwaway 1 o'clock time slot games where I don't really see any that are just like, oh, this should be relatively equal. It's like, nah, they all look relatively one sided, so we might get some upsets next week. And then
Hmm.
4 o'clock is a little bit more. It is um, two divisional games, which are relatively one-sided ones, with Colts, Titans, Saints, Bucks. And then the last 4 o'clock game is Cowboys, Broncos, which is CD Lamb versus Broncos defense could be fun.
Oh, that's actually I think that's going to be a marquee
CD
game. If there's one game that could be the stealth game of the year at this time of year, weird how many of these involve the Cowboys actually.
Yeah, CD Lamb versus Patrick Sertan, I think is a
Hmm.
very fun combo. But we have Sunday night, or let's go to Monday night. Monday night I view as less significant, important as Sunday night. Monday night is Commanders versus Chiefs. Unfortunately, it is a very unhealthy Commanders as of right now. I things might change, but
Yes.
this is like a Super Bowl matchup that could have happened last season, and they are both severely underperforming compared to like if where we would probably predict them a year ago. So
Mhm.
I feel like this is a very fun, who still has the moxie kind of style thing. And then Sunday night, Packers Steelers is by far the most even and best game like of the week. So I respect the that is like the right choice of game.
Yes.
It is the least one sided. It is Aaron Rodgers versus his Longstead team, the Packers, with like now Micah Parsons. You got like various levels of talent on both sides. I think this is I think this is the right call. This is I would say this is the most well-rounded by like how I would schedule these games. Um like like thing like schedule.
Hmm.
So, I support it.
Yeah. If a part like goal number one is entertaining game. Goal number two is best story, and you definitely nailed the best story aspect of
Yes.
this.
And it's also like if you're only going to be able to watch like one game for the time slot and not jump around to like different options, you want these games to be the most even or competitive or something like that.
Right.
You don't want
But
to.
also like it's what we were talking about in terms of like the philosophy of the show being like you want to be able to handle the water cooler talk, and
Yeah.
like you want these games to be the center of the water cooler talk.
Yep.
Um, your don't sleep on game, San Francisco, Houston.
I think it's the injured San Fran. Yeah, versus a very strong defense. I have no faith. It's like a very strong defense versus a pretty strong offense, especially with George
Mhm.
Kittle apologizing to all the betters last week and blaming the coach, obviously in humor. But um, yeah, I think that's I think that's a relatively even matchup, and then a missing a lot of key people, San Francisco defense might give Houston a chance to actually score a reasonable amount.
Right. I really need Houston to do some anything this game. to just have any faith.
Yeah, give me like a solid Nico's 40-yard touchdown and CJ Stroud rushes 4 yards in. Just something like that. And then your don't sleep on game.
Baltimore at Chicago. There is whispers that Lamar Jackson is practicing and may be ready to go for this game. Chicago, we haven't talked about them that much. They're fascinating because they're not, in a lot of ways, they don't feel like the team I was expecting. They're not. They have their moments passing, but they're yeah. But they've been more of a running team this year, honestly. Like, I'm actually kind of blown away by how good DeAndre Swift is, and maybe that is like the secret sauce of the Lions is they established the run game before the pass game got awesome, and it feels like they've at least got that part done. I do feel like this is sort of like a crossroads moment as we reach the midpoint of the season for both teams. If Baltimore loses this game, then it's just over. Like, I don't even think they should be rushing Lamar back, but like, you have to you just have to mass start winning games now. And this is like a theoretical, like they're theoretically a team who's below you that you kind of do have an obligation to beat. And for Chicago, if you win this game, then it's like, yeah, we have to at least have some discussion about you guys being a playoff team. We have to at least have some, like, you guys are going to have a track to get to the playoffs. And in a lot of ways, it'll feel like you're kind of further along on the rebuild than it would have looked like when we started this season.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it'll just be a fun game. I think, like, for all the crap we've seen from Baltimore, if Lamar plays, it is a fun collection of skill players going against two just kind of okay defense.
Yeah.
Shall I wrap them up for the day?
Yeah, send them home.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. This was a fun episode. It has been kind of a week for me, and I'll probably get into that next week when I have more time to write out some thoughts. We are in the final countdown for Halloween. Things are getting very spooky, very fast for a lot of teams. So I guess you can say we've got a long walk to the end of autumn because the movie The Long Walk came out. I mean, I guess